time I reached second grade, it became evident that I, like everyone else in my family, was going to need glasses. So my family took the trip out to Portsmouth. We lived in Virginia Beach, to our family optometrist. I got my eyes measured and I was given exceedingly unfashionable glasses that, oddly enough, given the trends of fashion, look much like these. And I got glasses. I put them on and didn't see much difference. I didn't understand why I was getting glasses. I was terrified of what I was going to experience once I got to school with these things on my face. And I didn't understand why I was getting them because, everything kind of looked the same inside the optometrist's office. They fit them and did everything that they needed to, and then I got outside. And I don't know if those of you who have glasses experience this, but when you get new glasses, you can see everything a little more clearly. So everything's really bright at first. And I overcame that shock to look across the street, and I could see every brick in the buildings across the street in perfect detail. It was incredible clarity, like seeing for the first time in years. And suddenly I realized, yeah, I need these things. The Beatitudes are so familiar to us. I mean, I had it printed on holy cards as a young Roman Catholic. All the Beatitudes, and you had to memorize them the same way you memorize the 7 deadly sins, the 7 virtues and the commandments. You knew them; they were familiar to you, and they always came in 8. And so you were, there and you understood them. But the familiarity, you don't see them. And so I was struck when, looking at the gospel, there's that little preamble of what Jesus has to do to set this up. We've got to get up the mountain. The children's story tells you that's because so people can hear. And the author of Matthew would probably tell you it's because he's Moses. We're going up the mountain for a new set of commandments. Get it? But it's going up the mountain. There's this separation. There's this elevation. There's a sitting down and a contemplation. He's giving them perspective so that they can get a new perspective. He's giving them glasses to help them see for the first time in a long time. We are bombarded by information, by sensation, by calamity and catastrophe. And it's hard to get perspective. It's hard to see things for what they are. I don't know about you, but I'm constantly finding out I'm grabbing my readers of one kind or another. Read this as my political affiliation. Read this as, a father. Read this as a husband. Read this according to my political affiliation, according to my education, according to my, my Virginian, I'm an American. Look at this from different perspectives, but they're just all readers. Where do I find, how do I see from the mountain as a Christian? How do I read my times in the way of Jesus? How do we sift for the things that will actually help us see? Because we're all looking for the things that confirm our narratives, our cherished beliefs. But life isn't like that. You're going to see things that are going to challenge your perspective if you're looking at all. You're going to see things that turn what you know upside down. And there's this moment of trying to make sense of it. Trying to reach for the readers that help you see, that have always helped you. Your education, your position, your status, your usual way of thinking. But left is the perspective of, something that at least helps you see better. I've been trying to make sense of things happening around me, what I'm supposed to do in the midst of it all, even as more information and more calamity and more disaster come each and every single day. And then I got to dig out of the snow. Even, Messiahs, I guess, have to dig out the garbage. The daily life just comes in. And it's hard to get up the mountain to see things for what they are, to get perspective. I'm challenged daily to stop seeing this as, well, I'll just put my cards on the table, a left-leaning American with a right conservative streak. I've served with left-leaning organizations. My mentor was a deep conservative. I went to George Mason University and was dipped in laissez-faire capitalism before being plunked out into the streets. I've seen these perspectives, and they're ready to go. When I see yet another person shot on camera, when I see war and violence from afar, when I hear what's happening in my own backyard, and I know how to interpret this as a conservative, as a religious person, and I know how to look at this as a more liberal person with a progressive conscience. And every once in a while I hit news that I don't know what to do with, and someone gives me a little more perspective. As me and my friends litigate video, someone points out, that's not the only person that's died in custody lately. You're just litigating the one who died on camera, who, for lack of better words, happened to be white. And that challenge to perspective, the easy narratives of who's right and who's wrong, fall apart. And I'm looking for some other kind of perspective. And so that's why Jesus brings the disciples up the mountain. Yes, so they can see. Yes, so they can hear. And yes, because he is a new Moses, bringing us the law in a new way, in the person, in the incarnation of a body. Mostly to give us perspective, to lift us out of the narratives and the stories we've been telling ourselves, to tell another one to the world. There is something holy about a body. There is something sacrosanct. There is something which the blessedness of God comes to us in a body, and something you can see and feel and hear. And Micah talks about, what am I going to bring to God? Am I going to bring a sacrifice? Am I going to bring, this and that and the other thing? No, God is going to bring something. God is going to enter the world. And we're going to come to these events with all of our narratives and all of our stories and all of our education and all of our status and all of our privilege, and something is going to run up against that. Something is going to stop our confirmation bias. From atop the mountain, we're going to see things differently. And that's going to make us cling ever harder to our narratives and preferred ways of thinking. And the Apostle Paul tells us, you need to power through that. We don't come at this the way we were. We come at this from a different perspective. We preach a God who died for us. And so you can keep, or at least lay aside, the signs that sustained you in the past and the wisdom you're clinging to now. The way out, beyond to the joy and the peace and the love and the justice that God calls us all to, is through the suffering, through the anxiety. Letting God, letting events break your heart and shatter the perspectives you've been carrying for too long, to see something new. Blessed are those who suffer for righteousness' sake. Blessed are the peacemakers, the meek, the poor in spirit. It's not people with power, with a ready narrative for how things ought to be. It's not the people who've always had power and privilege and status and wealth. It's for you and for me who come to God with broken perspectives, shattered narratives, and mourning and in pain. We come to the mountain to see something new, to see for perhaps the first time. We are in the midst of we Americans, Christians, human beings, are in the midst of getting our glasses adjusted, our sight retrained. And sometimes it's going to be too bright for us to see. So blink, get out of the office, and open your eyes anyway. And yes, you're going to be tempted to reach for the readers that have helped you in the past. But understand that they're only going to help you but so much. There's a prescription for what we've got. So it's time to perhaps focus. And focus differently. Use muscles and eyes and sight we haven't used, if at all. But know that through this suffering, through this anxiety, through this adjustment, there is light and love and peace and joy on the other side. Because we've been told, the prophet tells us what's good. We do justice. We love mercy. And we walk humbly with our God. Your political, social, even, ecclesiastical perspectives may differ. But the prophet tells us we are to, through all these perspectives, find a way beyond. A higher path, a harder path, where we try to do the right thing. And when we don't know what the right thing is, we try to do the kind thing. And if we don't know the right thing or the kind thing, then we walk humbly. We do something so that nobody gets hurt. This is another perspective. Jesus calls us into new sight. One that doesn't look away. One that doesn't look in the old ways, but looks beyond. To do justice, to love mercy, to walk humbly anew with a God who walks among us. This is a call to love and to peace and to justice. We must all head up the mountain, shatter and leave behind our old perspectives, and see the way for what it is. One of suffering, but ultimately of joy.